everyone. What? It's happy Sunday. Welcome to church where we preach the good word of science. I'm sure everyone is well rested. Nothing is going wrong in the world. Nothing is making us all stressed out and doom scrolly and terrified of the air. Hello, Leslie. Hello, everyone pouring in. Come, my babies. Come into church. I'm sure this is much less pants wearing than normal Sunday church. I would like to introduce you all to a science writer who I've shared her work a lot over the years, and this is my friend Tara Haley, who I've been mispronouncing her name for so much. Literally up until 10 minutes ago, I've been mispronouncing her last name. I suck. Anyways, so I have shared a ton of her work over the years before, and I realized when I met her that we were both invited to give a little talk at the same event from a group that we don't associate with anymore. We did not. Oh my God,
go.
It's funny. The person that we both knew that was associated with that group, she used to be when in 2016, and I was really good friends with her, and I'm going to call her Julie because that's absolutely her name. I remember she wrote in someone just who wasn't Trump, in 2016, and now she's a Trumplican. It's been
really,
yeah. I occasionally check out her. I occasionally check out her Twitter just to see where she's at.
I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt over and over and over, and it got harder and harder and harder. So I did not know that. Wow, that's disappointing.
I remember early in in his presidency, she was, and this was I was maybe she'll hop off the train, because some people who early on were like, well, he's passing legislation I like, but if he gets worse on certain things, then I will. And
I understand voting for him and hopping off the train. I don't understand the people hopping on the train.
I know some atheist activists who have become Republican because of the kids and the pronouns. I know people who it's like men of a certain age get cranky about having to learn new things. And that's and I mean it happens to women too, and it seems like it's above a certain.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it's men.
It is more often men, and it's more often than not white men, and it's more often than not white men of a certain economic stature over a certain age. Mm-hmm. And it's because I want to say it's because that group is more likely to have to be financially stable and to not have anything pop their little bubble of being
they're simply used to getting their damn way, and they're just used to paying for it all the time.
Yeah. What do you mean I have to change a pronoun that I use? I don't know.
Yeah, they're hopping under the train, aren't they? Yeah, they are.
Here's the thing. I just want to demonstrate this with you, and I were talking about knowing people's names and pronunciations of names earlier. I had a boyfriend who used to be named Rupert and changed his name to Robert. When he changed his name, people just respected that. I changed my last name, but from my douchebag father's name to my mom's last name, and people just respected that. I think we could just be nicer, but that's just me. Anyways, so I as is advertised in the description of this video, you wrote about masks early in the pandemic, and then you came out and it's funny because you're writing on it, and the writing from every epidemiologist that you and I both know supported not going with the widespread use of masks.
Right.
And it's partially because we didn't know there was we didn't know about the long infectious period beforehand. Right. It was safer to just tell people to stay home. Tell us a little bit more about how that article worked out.
It's interesting because first of all, the article itself was misconstrued by a lot of people. Yeah. I knew when I wrote it that if there was a lot of asymptomatic spread, it would be wise for everyone to wear a mask when they were out and about.
Yeah.
That didn't surprise me. And I even at the time let me back up again. First of all, what the article was, It was an article I wrote for Forbes that said, you don't need to wear a mask if you're not sick. And it was trying to encourage people that if you're sick, you need to wear a mask. You also need to stay home. But the idea was you don't need to wear a mask. And here's why. The reasons why were that it doesn't protect you from getting sick. And if you're not sick, then you don't necessarily, this is what we knew at the time, then you don't, if you're not sick, then you're not infecting other people. And it's much better to stay home, because if you wear a mask and think that it offers some sense of false security, maybe you're going to go out and go do things when you should be staying home. And on top of all of that, we didn't know how the pandemic was going to spread. And we knew that there was PPE shortages, the personal protection equipment shortage. And we didn't want people having a run on masks, because at that time, there was a very serious concern. There was already masks. Now, what the article that I wrote emphasized not wearing it to protect yourself. That's what the article was about.
Yeah.
Then, as we got more information about asymptomatic spread, and I said at the time that article came out, I got embroiled in so many Twitter discussions.
Oh my God, I remember seeing
in those
people were awful to you about this. It's like, and here's the thing, I would say like 1/100th of what you got from that article, because like Russell Smith just said, well, you two give yourselves a break. You gave out what you thought was the best scientific information at the time. Now, here's the thing. It's not that we're not giving ourselves a break. It's that we still get attacked for it. And so
telling me that I gave the wrong information. And one of the things I point out was at the time that article came out, when I was discussing it on Twitter with people, I said, in the best case scenario, all of us, every single person would be wearing masks, so that if we don't know we're sick yet, we won't get others sick. I said that back in, what was it, March 1st, March 2nd, March 3rd, right after that article came out.
Yeah.
And I said, but America's not there yet for two reasons. One, a lot of Americans don't have a cloth mask sitting in their drawer like people in China and Japan often do, because they already have a history of wearing masks. Second, it's going to lead to this, and therefore it's going to lead to this run on masks that we can't afford right now. And third, American culture, like our cultural mindset, was not ready at that time, in my opinion, for being told every single person needs to wear a mask. And I stand by that now. I don't advice. I mean, do I wish we had known more, that we could have given the right advice? Yes. But if I were to go back in time and I knew exactly what I knew then, and I didn't know anything about the future, I wouldn't necessarily have done anything different, because that was the best information we had at the time.
Like, I wish that
went on, we learned more. We learned that, we learned how long the asymptomatic window of infection was. That was the big one. But we now also know that it does offer people who wear it some protection. It does appear to cut down, and that we didn't have anything like that before. So yeah, I got really frustrated with people saying, oh, you gave bad advice. And I'm like, when you write an article, and you get like 100 epidemiologists thanking you for writing the article, it might not be bad at that time.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like the science evolved. Like I think if anything, the thing that we could have done, it's hard to know, because you don't know, we didn't know enough about anything with this virus at the time. If anything, what we could have done was tell people, please start sewing your own cloth masks. And I think that could have rectified it, but it's hard to know, how does this, is this thing even airborne? Everyone thought it was through touch that it spread.
I'm going to add something that Edward is saying right here. At the time of the article, there weren't enough cases to warrant a universal masking policy. And he's right. There really weren't. And here's what I was worried about at the time. I said this at the time. If we had told everybody at that time to wear a mask, when there weren't enough cases to justify it, what would have happened? It would have backfired, because people said, oh, there's not enough cases, so I'm not going to wear it. And it would have been that much harder to get people to wear a mask later. Now, we still have people who don't want to wear masks, but that was going to happen anyway because of asshole in chief.
America! Freedom! Liberate Michigan!
But I think I still stand by what advice was offered and the reasons and the rationales for offering it. I think were appropriate. And I think that we're out.
Oh yeah. And it's like, I'm hesitant when I, talk about it now to say that it was a good thing to do that because of the shortages. Like, I wish the one thing that we really could have done to fix that mistake was say, please start, it's like, had we had a better president, any other president probably would have started saying, hey, we have this, we have this wartime act that we can use to get companies to start, using their supplies and their capabilities to sew cloth masks, to make more surgical masks, to do these things, to distribute them to Americans. That's a thing we could have done. We could have, but it's like there's also, and this is something I keep trying to drive home, the behavioral economics of getting people to wear these things correctly.
That was my argument. That was my big argument. Like, if you were to go back and search mass Twitter, Tara, like search first week of March, because the article came out
Pictures of people wearing them wrong.
The article came out February 29th, and if you look at March 1st through about 10th or so, and you look for my name and masks, you will see that I said America is not culturally there. The behavioral economics was the issue, and it's, I've gotten attacked for that since, and I'm sorry. So much of what I write about vaccines, the whole writing about vaccines is writing about, understanding cognitive biases and understanding how people interpret information and how that translated. So I have a lot of understanding of how that works. And, and as several other people have pointed out, we did not have enough evidence at the time. Some people said, yes, we have. Oh no. I had printed out more than 100 papers of studies, and I read every one of them. And we did not have the evidence that we have now.
Yeah, it's one thing that I keep trying to tell people with like how people use masks. Like I participated in a vaccine trial, as most of the people that are in chat know, and it's the Johnson & Johnson trial, which just resumed. They were able to get after their operation, which I believe was a stroke that they concluded was not associated with the vaccine. A quick interruption. Simon has entered the chat, and have to do that every time. It's just not a thing. I can't see my mom without being like, I
like your comment there. She a president who didn't discard the epidemic handbook. I like that.
Right. Simon is on point with these things. Anyways, participated in the J&J trial, and these are people who, never mind believe in the science, they're willing to contribute their immune system's functionality to try to get a vaccine to market. And we're sitting there all in this room, and a couple people commented, yeah, this is the closest I've been to other humans since this thing started. And we started discussing things about the pandemic, and someone brings up we fucked it up on the masks, and I'm like, well, here's one of the reasons. And there's a guy in the room who's like one of the participants, one of the volunteers, whose mask is below his nose. And I just point out, I'm like, well, there are a lot of reasons that we said no to mask use. One was the shortage, and another was the behavioral economics, because people don't always wear these things correctly, even if they've just been told how to. And I mean, there are people in this room who believe in germ theory who aren't wearing it correctly, like that guy over, and I said it right to his face. I'm like that guy over there who isn't even covering his nose because apparently it's not connected to his lungs, and he got this like look on his face. He's like, I can't get it to stay up. And it was a surgical mask with a wire on it. I'm like, you need to take it, lift it, you feel that wire, and pitch it over your nose. He's like, oh. And just this look of, what the fuck? How did they know?
People told me that I was insulting others' intelligence, because one of the things I was saying in early March was that people needed to be trained how to properly wear masks. And it's worth noting that the mask article that I wrote, it was talking about N95 masks. That's what my article was about.
Yeah.
I was saying there's no reason to go out and buy a bunch of N95 masks. I kind of sidestepped that article didn't really discuss surgical masks or cloth masks because that wasn't being discussed yet.
Yeah.
When I follow-up article, but it's interesting because I said at the time, people need to be able to wear the PPE correctly, and people are like, how hard can it be? Well, how hard can it be? 3 different infection preventionists, all 3 of them said that they train people on a regular basis, people who wear masks on a day-to-day basis in their everyday work, and they still see poor compliance, poor follow-through.
Oh, yeah.
It can take up to an hour to teach someone the behavioral stuff. People think that it's really supposed to be second nature, or it's about intelligence. It doesn't matter how smart you are. Intelligence doesn't have to do with whether you wear your mask.
Yeah.
Right. It has to do with all these other cognitive things going on that are behavioral and patterns. And And so it
Like-
it really pissed me off when everyone's like, "Oh, you're just insulting our intelligence. Like we can't put on."
No, it's training.
Talk to the experts who say that you can't put on a mask.
Like it's training, and you need to know the feel of it. And there's like you can't just, some of that stuff you can't just read off the internet and know how to, like when they do fit testing with it, they spray a very smelly thing around your face to see if you can smell it. And until you cannot smell it, that thing is not technically fitted correctly. And I mean, I bought, because I live in LA and you can access everything at basically all of the Korean grocery stores in my area. There's also like a little there are a bunch of like little side stores at all the little gallerias. And my side store that used to just sell cosmetics has a giant stand up front with like every kind of mask you could possibly want, including 10 packs of KN95s.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, like you can get.
At the time that I wrote that article, the big question everyone was asking was, should I buy an N95? That's the question people were asking on February 29th when I wrote that article. And the answer to that question was no.
Yeah, and that was, and I mean, it was understandable that people were terrified because, like, KN90 or N95s are the thing that people are like, that's the gold standard, right? That's the only thing that works. And if we'd just known, if we'd just been aware of how effective cloth masks would be at least cutting down the spread, we would have unfucked that one up so well. But we did not. Oh, we can't undo the past.
Concerns about how well the distancing would have been adhered to had we had that. Because I will say one thing. I mean, we're totally fucked right now, but at the time that we had that mass, the nationwide distancing in like starting around March 17th ish and through the end of March, that was like the only time in the midst of all of this when our country actually came together and all did the same thing. There were, most people were not breaking quarantine at that time, and we got to give people credit for that. And I think that was a good response. The problem is that now they squandered that response, because the whole point of the shutdown wasn't just to flatten the curve; it was also to give the government time to implement testing and contact tracing and all of that. And they didn't. It's pointless. We lost a little. Well, it wouldn't have been pointless if the government had done its job.
The sad thing is, I read fairly recently, like they did cell phone tracking data to see how much of a change there was. It looks like Americans only cut down on their, and it's different, state to state, obviously, but overall, Americans really only cut down on their movement by about 40%. So it was,
that's big.
Yeah, but that was not like other countries cut down by much more.
Well, I was taking into account that we're American and we all think we can just say, screw it, I'll do what I want. So
it's like
Americans, we have lower standards.
It's like we cut down a lot, but not to the amount that we like. And I mean, a ton of that we have to remember was in New York, where like it's hot zones cut down quite a bit because they went on like, oh shit, we need to lock down now status. Right. But places where we could have really thwarted this, we're like, we don't need to get that strict, do we? Like there was not a national strategy on it that, like you said, could have gotten this under control. And there also was not a strategy at the top to get on this.
They didn't have to work hard to get one. Like your mom said about him throwing out the epidemic handbook. That's not a joke. There was an epidemic.
Yeah, exactly. There was a fucking book.
I mean, it's not like you couldn't go and find, like, the strategies existed. We knew what we needed to do. Except Jared was kind of like, screw New York, and basically, it's just the blue state assholes.
Oh my God! Did you see the billboard in New York City?
Oh God, is this the one with Hunter?
It's no. The Lincoln
actually, I saw the Lincoln Project. It's the Lincoln Project one.
The Lincoln Project did a billboard of both Ivanka and Jared.
And the Lincoln Project's lawyer wrote back. Did you see the letter that the Lincoln Project wrote?
The Lincoln Project. It's, oh my God! And here's the thing: the Lincoln Project is like, go ahead, fucking sue. Like it's
go ahead.
What I love about the letter that Jarvanka's, I don't know if Jarvanka's lawyers sent it or if Jarvanka's like, we can write this ourselves, because it was such a bad letter. Victor, over on YouTube, I see that you have a science question. Please type your science question, and we'll see if we can try it out. Their letter was just so ridiculous because one of the things they said was Ivanka has never made such a gesture, and it was a picture. It was a photo of her making that gesture. Like, yeah, of course she's made that gesture. It was the photo of her holding the can of soup, just without the can of soup, and it was an actual quote from Jared that they used up there. Like, they were just substituting in New Yorkers.
The whole thing where she was like promoting the Goya beans.
Oh yeah. Oh, not soup. Yeah, beans.
Yeah.
Like, it was, and like, there's that was
to say anyway. She's never made that expression or whatever, that gesture before. Who sues over that anyway?
Like, here, it's the things that these people get mad about is like, I feel like I'm being gaslit by these people because they're like, they didn't do the things that we have.
We're all gaslit. I mean, this is not a horrible administration. It's an abusive administration. It actually, if you studied the abuse cycle and you understand gaslighting in abusive relationships and domestic violence, like, we are in an abusive relationship with our government.
Like, every time Trump does something after, and eventually a reporter gets the testicles or the ovaries or whatever, that gets the spine needed to say, hey, you did this awful thing, please explain it. Like, Trump's response, I never did that. Here's the video. Well, it is what it is. Like, there's never an explanation. It's always just deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Like, it's just Darvo.
Lots and lots and lots of projection.
Yeah, it's like it's the way they're attacking the Bidens. You know, your children were enriched from this office. Oh, I wonder who did that for their children. You're getting tons of money from China. Who has a secret Chinese bank account? Yep. It seems a lot like they're like, well, if we did, I feel like anytime they accuse Biden of something, just look like that's where you should send the FBI to look at Trump's family.
Exactly, pure, yeah.
It's like, well, we did this crime, so they must have too.
Yep.
That seems.
When you said when you were asking me about the billboard, there's another billboard that just went up in Cookeville, Tennessee. It's the picture of Biden's son, Hunter, with the cigarette or the joint, I don't remember what it is, hanging out of his mouth in the bathtub. That picture.
Oh, the alleged crack. Oh, gotcha.
It is so disgusting, and it's stigmatizing for addiction. It's inhumane.
Yeah.
It's horrific.
Oh my God.
And it's it's just it's really disgusting.
Why? Like, I just don't see why that's how is that okay? Like, that's not a thing that, like, George H.W. Bush likewise had a son who did cocaine.
A lot of cocaine.
Did so much cocaine. And not only did that was never held against George H.W. Bush. He was allowed to be vice president. He was allowed to be, so George H.W. Bush got to be head of the CIA, vice president, and his fucking coke-addicted son got to be president twice. So I'm just saying, it seems like there's a bit of a double standard afoot here.
And someone just said mudslinging in politics is a very old practice. That's true, but reached levels that are just reached a whole like I don't know. Overtime. Like we're so far, if you guys know what the Overton window is, that sucker broke years ago.
Like, we're at a place where it's acceptable for the Republicans to like, we don't even know if these pictures are real or if they're fabricated entirely. Like, this, we're at a point where they're like, where the Republican Party ends up taking a picture that of unknown origin of their opponent's son and puts it on a billboard to ostensibly humiliate them, and that's okay. But if the Democrats literally just say the name Barron Trump, it's just they've done the most offensive thing. Like there were pictures of Barron coming. Like if we say it 3 times, like so a Republican will appear in the rearview mirror to chastise us. Barron Trump, Barron Trump, Barron Trump, come for us.
Kids should be off limits. It should be. I mean, unless there's a really extraordinary situation, but Hunter Biden is not an example of an extraordinary situation. Someone a minute ago, someone asked Overton window. I'll just explain that real quick. The Overton window is this concept, and the guy who created it, I think, is named Overton. It's the idea that the Overton window are the things that it is socially and politically acceptable to discuss in social and political discourse. So, for example, the ability to talk about gay rights or gay marriage was not within the Overton window back in the 50s. Like, you wouldn't even have brought it up. And so the idea of like how you shift to what is even okay to discuss is kind of the Overton window. And now that it's exploded. Someone asked a little bit ago, they said, I thought we were having a science discussion.
I saw that too.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and
we cannot discuss science with
right now. Like the biggest problem. Well, there's so many problems with this administration. You can't pick one, but one of the most serious ones, and the one that is most endangering all of our lives right now, is the administration's unwillingness to believe science and listen to scientists. That is the single biggest danger to us at this moment in time. So you can't talk about the pandemic or science without talking about, the refusal of this whole group of people in government to follow scientists' advice.
Yeah, and this is something I've tried to drive home for when people get a little bit cranky about the fact that we're discussing politics, is that we're not discussing politics because we just love talking about miserable, awful people that make us miserable and awful. We're talking about this because politics stuck its dick in science. Okay, they came here first. And I did not want its dick here. And so I can't tap dance around this dick that's wiggling around the room. I got to talk about this dick that's hanging out. Okay. It's until I can get this dick out of here. I gotta throw some ice and try to shrivel it out of existence.
Just a tip, right? Just a tip was where it used to be.
Now I could deal with just the tip. And now it's painfully enlarged in here. It's not all right. Like I did not go dicking around in politics. Politics came dicking around in science, and so this is not okay. So I don't see how people.
I want to address something. Angela just said I think we need to stop using the word believe and start using the word understand. That's an interesting point because I agree and I disagree. In some cases, I think it really is that they don't believe in science. Like they literally do not believe in it. It is not it shouldn't be a belief system, but it is for them. And they have the ability to understand it, but they choose not to. I think there are other people where you can say they don't understand science, but I think the precision of those two words are important because it's going to vary depending on who you're talking about. In some cases, it is people who don't understand science. In some cases, it's people who have the ability to understand it, but they choose not to.
I just want to point out the person who complained that we were talking about politics said later I can get this kind of discourse watching regular TV. Their name is actually Karen. Their name is actually Karen. Yes. Thank you for living up to the stereotype, Karen. You have made my fucking day. And I just want to say, go back to Fox News. And speaking of, that's an excellent segue into you went into the lion's den and you went on Fox News to tell people to wear masks. So now you've gotten hate mail for telling people to not wear masks.
I'm demon possessed. Did you know that? That was my favorite one.
What your demon was?
A guy told me that I was obviously possessed by demons because I was telling people on Fox to wear masks.
Oh my God.
It was actually, and the best part, I don't know if I should say this or not, but it's really funny. So someone said, well, tell me, Tara, are you actually screwing demons? People want to know. And I did like this. I did an emoji that went like this. And my husband wrote, I'll take that as a compliment.
It's, demon sex. Look, I've seen a few episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Don't knock it till you try it.
demon sex looked pretty good on Buffy. I'm just saying. Like it did some things for the characters on that show. So whew, go husband. So good times.
It's funny because I hear people say, "Oh, I'm so sorry you have to deal with that." And yeah, sometimes it's a drag, but honestly, most of the time I laugh. Like I get the haters, and I sort of get impressed with the creativity of some of them, and then I get disappointed with the lack of creativity from most of them. So
it's like I have never gotten a piece of hate mail that made me go, wow, you did a good job writing this. I always go, oh, I made you so mad that you spent a half an hour on this unoriginal screed. I got that inside your head. Good job. Like I want
that they are going to stop watching Fox News because of people like me. And that one, I mean, I was proud of that. If I can get someone to stop watching Fox News, dude, my work here is done.
Like, I saw that. I think I saw that one that you posted, and I was like, dude, at first when I saw that, because I had to read the whole thing to try to get what they were getting at. Like, because when they said they were going to stop watching Fox News because of people like you, I was like, oh, so you've changed their opinion. And I was wrong about that assumption. Yeah. They were going to stop watching Fox News because Fox was occasionally featuring a sensible person. I'm like, damn.
It's a scary point where there is now a group of people and friends of mine who are conservative but have brains and hearts and are voting for Biden have told me that there is this growing number of people who feel that Fox News is too liberal.
Whoa.
Just chew on that for a minute.
Like the people for whom One American Network OAN is, or is it OAN or OANN? Either way, those people who were like, we can only ask questions in the form of a compliment for how big and strong and pretty the president. Those are the craziest. Like there was a great episode of John Oliver covering how nuts they are. But like there were times where they didn't get a White House press pass where they just showed up with their own chair. Like there's something very off and wrong, and like how are these people allowed a seat at the table? Like other than I cannot wait for one day when they no longer exist. But because there's just there's a market for people telling these far right hand people what they want to hear, and far right people they want to hear.
Right, crazies,
yeah. And it's like, here's the thing: there's a market for that on the left too. But man, it's so transparently full of lies and propaganda on the right. It's a little different.
Yeah.
So it's like I want, like, it's hard to come out and say, you know, there are things that are not accurate to reality on the right and left, but it's worse on the right. And I get it. That sounds like I'm saying my team is better with their falsehoods, but it's kind of true.
Well, okay. Here's the thing that frustrates me when it gets to people, and this is true. You see this with science, you see this with politics, you see it in a lot of places. It's I don't know what to believe, both sides have X. So if both sides lie, I don't know what to believe. Well, yeah, but one side is lying like 80% of the time and one side is lying 15% of the time. So why don't we try and figure out what the lies are and recognize the fact that we have a problem with an 80% versus 15%? Like if your only choice is to vote for a liar, at least vote for the one who lies less.
Yeah.
You see it with science things where people say, oh, well, there's people who say that climate change isn't happening. Yeah, and they represent like 1/1000th of the scientific community. So, you know, science is about uncertainty. And you're never going to, gravity is a friggin' theory. Okay? Like, it's a theory. But so, you know, when people talk about, oh, well, there's evidence, like, yeah, there's evidence against all kinds of stuff. But it doesn't mean that you just throw your hands in the air and say, I don't know what to do. You know, it just doesn't make sense.
Sorry, my buddy is like, Mom, I need to
go get my pets. I could grab some rats, or I could grab my my lizard.
We have not had a rat on the show yet.
You haven't? I'll go and get
We have-
Sadie.
go get a rat. Let's see some. I love rats. Quick story time for y'all. My brother used to have pet rats, and so we've long had, or we long had back when I was growing up, a couple of really adorable pet rats, and the first one was named Tansy. And Tansy, you would put your arm into the cage and would just climb out onto your shoulder and start giving you kisses. Very cute rat. Oh my God!
Here, this is Ginger.
I love Ginger.
There's there, and then Sadie. I'll show you why Sadie's name is Sadie. She only has one eye.
Aww.
And so Sadie is the name of a pirate, a very famous pirate, and so she's Sadie.
Nice. Oh my God, they're so cute.
I think I have 10 right now.
Oh my God.
They're
adorable.
Yeah, you've seen me post about my rats on there before.
Oh yeah. It's my brother had rats, and so like at one point Tansy was the best rat that he ever had. He had 2 rats named, I want to say Quaffle and Snitch, yeah, Snitch was really cute, but man, my favorite was definitely Tansy. Tansy was just, you put the arm into the bottom of the cage and Tansy would crawl up your arm and just sit on your shoulder.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, not all of them. One of my favorites is Scout, but I won't take her out because she loves to explore. She's called Scout because she is like an escape artist. She's probably, if I put my finger out, she'll lick it. Yeah, there she goes. See, now she's.
It's so, I like this from Leah. Show concept: women talk science with pets. we just sit here with our cute animals and talk about things with pets. I enjoy it. It's, oh man, just someone made a salient point while I mentioned that my brother had rats named after Harry Potter things. She who shall not be named. I just want to say, no, I'll name her, but I'll only call her Joanne because it's not what she likes to be called. Just saying, how's it feel, Joanne?
Oh, you know what's funny? I don't know if you saw this when it first started breaking, that story, but someone did a really good point, or did a really good. They pulled an excerpt out of the Harry Potter, the 7th book, and spoilers for anyone who hasn't read the book that's been out for a decade.
If this is a spoiler for you,
if you haven't read it yet, that's your problem. The very beginning of the 7th book is when they do all the Harry Potters. They drink the Polyjuice potion, and like there's like 7 different Harry Potters that go in different places so that they don't know which one's the real Harry Potter. And one of the people who turns into Harry Potter with the Polyjuice potion is Hermione, and she meaning Joanne, uses she when referring to Hermione as Harry Potter. Think about that for a minute. So Harry Potter, or Hermione's appearance is Harry Potter, and and the author uses the she pronouns with her, which shows that she is capable of getting this concept. She just chooses not to.
Yeah, I think whatever happened to her, I wonder if she only became a transphobe after, like, just didn't, because it wasn't a thing in the public consciousness.
It is weird. The whole thing is weird.
I've talked about this a little bit before. Like back in the aughts, in the late 90s, early 2000s, we didn't, as a whole in the public, talk much about we didn't talk too much about trans people. We didn't know much. I'm sure I used I apologize for using this word now, but just to say what the word was, I'm sure I used the term tranny as because it was just a term that we use, and it's like after
another one.
Yeah, it's like, and there were terms that we used because we thought they were acceptable. We didn't know as a whole the people that they were insulting.
Martin Walters. Sorry, the best part of JK is she raised a generation to stand against her bigotry. Sorry, that's just such. Go on.
I know it's a really good point, and it's like my brother is trans, and one of the things my brother met his that's so cute the rat, and like my brother met his wife at a Harry Potter convention, like they're huge Harry Potter fans, and he's trans, and like he said one of the things he said, he's like, look, J.K. Rowling doesn't owe me shit, but like I wish that she would take a lesson from her characters. It's these are it's just it's one of those I'm not mad, just disappointed. Like you can't you can't change a rich old white. Like there's a trend in who is like, I don't need to give a shit about
these people. Really should have known better considering where she comes from. So like, I'm gonna pick them up just because they're I think they're gonna just
yeah. Oh, they're so cute. I think just having a little rat necklace would be fantastic. Martin, you are always noticed. Like I'm trying. This is one of the things that I found has been difficult about transitioning over to a live stream with guests is that I'm trying to pay attention to all of your comments and trying to chat to a guest at the same time. So it's been a learning process out there, people. I'm doing what I can, but
I'm watching them at the same. That's what
you've done.
My eyes are probably doing that tennis match thing where I'm like looking.
No, it's been great to have because I have guests sometimes who like they don't look at the chat stream at all, and I have some guests who like you who are looking at it back and forth, and I think it's fantastic when I have someone looking at the chat stream.
HD, so it's easier for me to do that. Like it's actually easier for me to be doing 3 things at once. It's fantastic because like it helps me as well if I'm not the only one looking at it, because that way we're both grabbing some questions and I'm seeing what pings your brain. So it's Leslie. So that's why we have Patreon. We get to hog your attention. Yeah, if you want extra of my attention, Patreon is the place to go. I haven't seen her pop into the stream today. I have one patron that sends me after every has sent me 11 emails in 3 days, and it's a little terrifying. Medication.
I'm just saying, look, guys, like if you want to interact with me and just chit chat with me, like the way to do it is come on to the Discord server. I chat with people, like just chit chat, just have regular conversations with on a regular basis, and they're fun and delightful and easy. You don't even need to be a patron for that. But like, please don't send me 8 emails right after you sign up for Patreon. I'm not gonna 8 emails in less than an hour. 8 emails in an hour was a bit much.
That's not in the right Superfan handbook.
Like I part of like my husband was like, you should probably just refund her Patreon and block her, and I'm like, no, that's money, I'll take it. But like, don't send me 8 emails in an hour. That's a lot.
That's disturbing. Yeah.
Just think about how that feels to me. Like think about what that looks like when it hits my inbox, and why I might go, I need more anxiety medication. It's terrifying. So that's all. I just please be nice to your Psy babe. She like, look, it's when someone is told you have to lock down in your house until further notice, and they go, oh, that's fine. Like 8 emails is enough to scare that kind of person. So
hey, I'm a pathological extrovert, and 8 emails would freak me the hell out.
Yeah, it's
live on other people.
It's funny because like we're like when we chit chat, like we both talk at about the same rate and about the same amount, but like I'm someone who's just a talkative introvert, and you're like the penultimate extrovert. It's amusing how it's like when I met you at the little event that we were both speaking at, I was like, wow, she's someone who talks as much as I do. I love her. And it's like it's
what I have to share this. One of my favorite, I don't know if it's a compliment or not, but one of my favorite things that was ever said about that before, I was traveling with my then Australian boyfriend in Egypt, and we met this other Australian doctor who kind of was traveling with us for a while, and we were on this felucca, which is like this giant raft on the Nile River for 3 days. And apparently when I got off of the raft to go do something at one point when we were docked, there was always this talk about me being the typical American because I was the American with the Canadians and the Australians and all. Well, the doctor guy said to my then Australian boyfriend, he said, yeah, she really does talk a lot, but you know what? She actually has something to say. And I was like, I thought, yes.
I like that. I like that a lot.
American, but at least I'm not spouting nonsense. That was a long time ago. That was in the year 2001. So that was, gosh, almost 20 years ago. But I always remember that as sort of like this lovely kind of, I don't know if it's a backhanded compliment. It's just an outright compliment, like it's a fact of the matter is I talk a lot. And
Yeah.
so I said an Australian boyfriend because, he's still Australian now. He wasn't then Australian and no longer Australian. He was then my boyfriend and he happened to be Australian. So I was living in London at the time, and then I later lived in Australia. I am now married to a man who is American, like total homegrown Texan American, which is really bizarre because I never thought I'd marry someone like that. But hey, balls.
Occasionally you find one from right at home who just happens to fit all the things you need. I moved to California as a 29.
You can manage me.
I moved to California and I just happened to meet myself. I joked that I'm like, okay, I moved out here. Maybe I'll find myself a long-haired pot smoking hippie. That is exactly who I married. I married myself at the time he had like Jesus hair. It was down, like I had a short little.
Before I met him, my husband had Jesus hair down to like his middle back. This was before I met him. But here's the awesome thing. You met him just before we started this. He works at I'm not going to say where he works, but he works at a major corporation that's kind of like button up, he used to work in the Midwest and he had to like look, clean cut. Well, now that he's working from home, he's growing out his hair and it's now gotten to the point where he needs to put it in a ponytail. And so he's got this sort of hipster-esque little baby ponytail and it is so cute.
Nice. It's like, is he one day going to be like, yeah, I can sport a man bun?
He wants to grow it out, and then he's going to dye it blue. I think he chose blue. My hair used to be pink. I don't think it has any pink in it anymore, but
it has a nice like champagne glow to it.
If he does his blue, I'll go back to pink. Maybe we'll do our kids like green and purple, and we'll just be like this alien family. It'll be fun.
Nice. I like it. Look, it's pandemic hair time. We do what we can. I have literally like it's somewhere. I have a drawer full of like salon like hair stuff. Like I have every strength of developer. I have a bucket of bleach. I have Olaplex so that I don't destroy my hair when I throw the bleach on. And I've been sitting here ready to destroy my hair and strip out all of the color. I don't, there's something about me that it's not the there's something that I just can't like. I'm waiting. I think it's waiting for my hair to get a little longer so that like there's something weird about when like the shorter hair in the back grows out. Like it looks like you have this little bit of blonde and then this chunk of I don't know. I just want it a bit longer before I bleach it. I'm like, just to quote so many women throughout history, I need another inch or two. Getting there. It'll be fine. So here, quick. I know we already talked about you going on Fox. I just want to know how Lion's Den-ish was it on Fox itself?
It was fine. I mean, a person who interviewed me was Arthur Neville.
Okay.
And she's really. I did some research on her ahead of time, and she's legit. She's a good journalist. I didn't feel at all. The first time I went on, I felt a little bit like I was being guided into saying, yes, kids should go back to school in the midst of the pandemic, which was not the point I was trying to make, but I was trying to emphasize that, yeah, school is important. That was when I was on like way back a couple months ago. This time I felt very confident about the message that I was saying, and I did not feel as though the conversation was being directed. It was very collegial. It was very relaxed. It was a good experience, actually. And it's an experience I appreciate because I think, it's when people say, why did you go on Fox? Well, who needs to hear more than anything right now to wear masks? It's the audience of Fox. If I can be a part of reaching that audience And I mean, some of the trolls that we mentioned, I got several emails after I was on there, and it was people saying that I was lying and I was full of this and full of that. And I actually wrote them nice emails back. I said,
Yeah.
oh, you're right about this part, but you might want to look at this part. And then I ended with, have a lovely weekend. And I think it startles people when they get those responses because they're expecting either no response or vitriol. And when you respond to them kindly when they've taken the effort to email you, I think it makes them do a double take for a minute. And I'm not saying I'm going to change their mind or anything, but it's like, it's one little straw, right? And maybe another straw comes along, another straw, and eventually that camel's back will break.
I'll go with that camel's break will back. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
And well, how do you know you change minds? People have told me. And none of them change their mind in a day. No one changes their mind in an hour or a day or a week. But I have more than 36 people who have told me that by watching my Twitter feed or by Facebook or by, reading my blog and different things, which I haven't updated that blog in years, but, that over time, I was instrumental in changing their mind about something. Most of the time it's been about vaccines, but not only about vaccines. Yeah. I've had at least 2 men who told me that I completely changed the way they thought about feminism. And they now regard themselves as feminists. And I tell people, if you like the words I've used, steal them. And they'll now use things that I've said to their male friends.
Nice.
So, you have to pick your battles and realize when you're beating your head against a wall. But the fatalism of there's no point in ever talking to them, I don't think is helpful. Now, if you're talking to someone who's totally on the Trump train right now, screw them. I'm not talking to those people.
Yeah, if they're still on board after all this, we're screwed.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think, it's not that I think, and also I have to acknowledge, I am a white, heterosexual, cis female. I have a lot of privilege, and I therefore also have a lot of the emotional, like, I don't know, the resilient, not resilience, that's not the right word, the emotional, like I can deal with being the person who says nice things to the assholes. I do not expect the Black, trans, woman to, be responsible for speaking nicely to someone who just called her something horrific.
Yeah, it's like someone who's going to
that we should all be nice to all of the bigots. It's not that, but I think there are certain situations where when you have the privilege and you have the you have the spoons to be able to do it, then great, take advantage of it. But don't ever expect that, especially of people who have less privilege.
Yeah, so. It's like somebody who I know, like as soon as a conversation starts, they're very right to exist. They're they're like
they don't have the right to exist. Don't engage with them. They're not worth it.
It's like if at the very beginning of the conversation there is a name that there are multiple slurs that they can be insulted with. Like how do you? It's hard to think. Yeah, they're gonna want to have that conversation. It's like go out and ally well, and you'll probably be doing you're doing. I don't know if I want to say a bit of a service, but you'll be doing something helpful for your friends more than just saying, "Hey, I'm there for you." So. Have the hard conversation here or there. It's and that includes things like going on Fox News.
Yeah, and talking to people about things. Yeah. And I have to bring this up since we're talking about this and we talk about feminism. Have you seen the new Borat? I can't even say it right. The new Borat movie yet?
I have. I only went to see the Giuliani. I gotta say, I went to watch the Giuliani scene. And I just and here's the thing: the Giuliani scene was not as bad as I expected.
No, it's anticlimactic, actually.
I think like here's the thing: when you get older, people, as we are hopefully all going to do, because we're hopefully all going to wear our masks, not get COVID, and be able to live long, old, decrepit lives, our body shapes change, and we get kind of bunchy around the middle, and our bodies turn into these like straight. Our body shapes are harder to work with when we're older. That's why we wear our pants higher.
I don't know what he was doing, but it wasn't that damn.
Like basically old men they're built kind of like frogs. They have the butt of a frog that you've like straight. They have no butt, and there's kind of like they wear their pants higher, like to go around the waist as opposed to under the gut. And more than likely, Giuliani wears his pants like an old fucking man because that's what he is. And look, right before he was tucking the pants in, you could see the girl taking the microphone that was kind of tucked into his belt out. And look, there are a zillion reasons to think Giuliani is a piece of shit. Okay. This just isn't it. Like,
I think that what I liked about the movie, there's several scenes that are just, I mean, it's the movie itself, like you have to have a narrative thread to push through, and the narrative that drives through is kind of dumb, right? But it's supposed to be dumb. Like, it's stupid. It's dumb. And
I've heard it's oddly feminist, and that there's one scene that makes you cry. Like, really.
Well, I didn't cry in it, but there is, I mean, I was crying with laughter several times, but the in-between scenes where it's just Borat and his daughter are kind of dull and just like advancing the narrative so that they can set up for the next scene with the in real life people. But one thing that was interesting is that compared to the movie in 2006, the people are much more open about their bigotry in this one. Like, it's just much more overt.
Yeah.
There's less discomfort with it. And it's really unsettling to watch. I mean, there were some other things that people said that I was stunned that they said it. I mean, some were just funny because of the juxtaposition of what they did, but other ones I was just like, oh my God. Not that I was surprised. I live in Texas. I wasn't surprised about who said what. But just that they were so nonchalant about it. It was just, so it is worth watching. Yeah. From a political commentary and social commentary angle, it is really worth watching.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things. I saw an interview with him yesterday. He said, like, at one point he stayed with a QAnoning family, and he said that they were actually, he's like, I was surprised by this. They were nice people.
Well, and that's one of the things I liked about it, because when he sees these two guys and they're clearly conspiracy theorists, the movie actually presents them pretty fairly. I know people like that in real life.
Oh yeah,
they are nice people, but they're crazy people, and they're endangering our nation, and they're also racists that don't realize they're racist. But they're also nice people, and that's
hard. That's what makes us so hard. Like, I think that
how you define nice, but I mean, they were actually in Texas, and they are what I call a Texas racist. A Texas racist is very different. It's almost the opposite of a Midwestern racist, which I learned when I was living in the Midwest.
Oh my God.
A Texas racist is the one who tells the racist jokes, who says that they don't like those people. And then when one of those people moves onto their block, they invite them over for barbecue and leave them to watch their kids without a problem. It's a different, it's like, I'm not going to say they're not racist. And there certainly are people who treat others poorly, but that friendliness thing really, it's sort of the Greek hospitality thing. And it really does supersede a lot of the racism a lot of the time, not always. And it depends on where you are and if you're in a city versus a small town. Like, I mean, I'm generalizing. Whereas in the Midwest, it was racist. We're not racist, when they knew damn well they are racist, and they won't even associate with people. They won't even go to the places where there's going to be those kind of people. Like, they'll actually say, I'm not going to go there because that's where some rowdy children are. And you know what rowdy children means?
Black children.
In Texas, they'll outright say, oh yeah, that's where all the such and such people hang out. But then they'll go there and they don't care. So it's, like, it's a very different kind of racism. It's different from Northeastern racism and like from Boston and Philly, and it's different from West Coast racism. Yeah. Really don't know that they're freaking racist, but they are.
I grew up. Yeah, it's like I grew up in I was born in the Boston area, and I grew up in New Hampshire. And like Boston, New Hampshire, it's there. You get out of the Boston area and get a good 20 miles outside of there, and the population of Black people gets, like, the further away you get from any large city in the Northeast, the fewer Black people there are. And I think when I was in high school, I don't think there was a single Black person in my graduating class in high school. I think there might have been a couple of Black kids in the high school while I was there, but not very many. Like, I wasn't exposed to a lot of people when I was in school who weren't this, like, there were some, obviously, but like, growing up, I wasn't exposed to a lot of people who weren't the same race as me. And that's just kind of part of living there. So the racism is subtle because it's hard to experience racism when you're not around a lot of other races. But you hear people saying the shitty things because there are a lot of, because no one's there to check people on it. Like you heard,
and someone mentioned South racism, which that was the one I left out. Deep South racism is like, that's as pure as you get when it comes to racism. They say it, they act it. I mean, it's, whereas Texas racism is more like, it's almost like Southwest. Someone said earlier they think of Texas like Southern Oklahoma, and I'm like, oh no, very different. Besides, I mean, we all know why, Texas hasn't fallen into the ocean is because Oklahoma sucks so bad. So there you go.
Oh, man. I love the little
my Oklahoma joke in there. But no, people don't. Texas is a really misunderstood place. It has a lot of issues, but it also, people are always surprised when they say like, well, why would Texas turn blue? Well, maybe because Houston, Austin, El Paso, and San Antonio have never, ever, 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 ever been red, ever. And Dallas has not been red for more than 10 years. And Fort Worth finally just turned blue last election. Like, Texas it's a size issue. We have over 20 million people. But people don't realize, like, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, and El Paso they've always been blue. And Dallas has been blue for a long time now. It's a very, people get a lot of confusion about how Texas really is. It varies a lot. Oh, someone asked, what do you think the odds are? I'm not going to play that game because I'm too scared to. And I just read this utterly adorable young adult romance. I'm a big YA romance, like YA books, like sci-fi romance, fantasy. That's like my comfort food.
Young adult romance is it's good junk food. It's delightful junk food.
In royal blue. And it's about, it's like this fictional, like alt history where a woman won the presidency in 2016 and her son falls in love with the Prince of England. And so the two boys that are in love with each other, like trying to hide this romance because they can't know they're gay. And it is such a cute book. But anyway, the family that's in the White House, the mother who's the woman who's the president and her son are from Texas. And in that book, they get Texas right. And there's an election, the 2020 election in the book. They're looking at the returns from Texas coming in. And I will just say it was such a balm to read that book right now, but it scares me because Texas is in play right now.
Oh my God.
It's a long shot, but that's because I cognitively, mentally, I have to think of it as a long shot because I can't get my hopes up again.
You can't take the disappointment.
Yeah, I can't deal with it. So I can't, I can't think about it, but I'll keep hoping. It's eventually going to happen. Whether it happens, I don't know.
I'm amazed at the early voting numbers because as of yesterday, 76% of the total voting from Texas from 2016 had already voted from both early voting and mail-in votes. Like that's just phenomenal. So.
Someone asked the book. The book is red, white, and royal blue. It's such a cute book.
I will. That sounds delightful. Red, white, and royal blue.
It's like this adorable, and the two boys are so cute. Their romance is. It's got it's got sex scenes in it. So but it's like YA new adult. So it's it's a really adorable book.
Yeah, it's the.
Sorry, I wasn't really part of it.
Look, we are a show that is all about science tangents and fucking dunking on libertarians because it feels good. We need easy layups once in a while. It's like this is the apocalypse and I'm tired.
Escapes. Those kinds of books are I read those and I read what do you call it? The fantasy books and
stuff like escape.
I usually read strong female character books. That was one of the ones where it was like this. Nice. Male character who was getting in touch with his sensitive side. So
nice. Oh, I just wait. Someone said, to be fair, she did in terms of the popular vote. I don't.
Oh yeah, Hillary did win in terms. Well, what's interesting? Do you know that not a single U.S. Republican president has won the popular vote in over 20 years?
Bush did in 2004.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, 2004.
Okay, so I have okay.
Yeah, but think about it this way: would he have won, like would he have been in position to win the popular vote if he hadn't first illegally gotten in via stopping the recount in Florida in 2000?
That's hard to say. I don't even. In 2000 was just its own,
Yeah, like he had
lost the popular vote in 2004 as well. So I was sorry, I was wrong about that.
Oh no, it's just I think the only reason, like, and it was close, but yeah, he won that one.
I was looking it up to make sure I was okay. Cool.
Yeah, that was one of those just barely deals.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that is the only way that a Republican can win a popular vote, is by being an incumbent and running against someone who just seems boring enough.
Yeah.
So he was running against someone whose personality was as dry as Ben Shapiro's wife's pussy. Someone just reminded me I hadn't made a Ben Shapiro joke yet, and look, as soon as I'm reminded, I can't not, because look, I will one day stop making jokes about Ben Shapiro's inability to pleasure a woman. And I will only do that when I have confirmation that he's pleasured a woman, which will be never, never. So I will keep making those jokes. You're welcome, or I'm sorry, people, but mostly you're welcome. But yeah, I'm fascinated with how Republicans have managed to grab so much power with representing so much, so few.
Gerrymandering and voter suppression is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, like I look at it and go, there's no good way to fix it in the Senate specifically, because in like Wyoming has less than 1 million people in it, and they get the same number of senators as California that has 40 million people. And these are the kinds of things that are just not fixable. Like, we could try after the census gets in this year to at least assort congressmen so that they're better represented, or that they're more equitably represented. But no matter what, the Senate is never going to be fair.
Well, I mean, I don't have an issue with the way the Senate and the House of Representatives are set up. When you go back to, historically, the Great Compromise, it makes sense. My issue is with the Electoral College, because the Electoral College's purpose was to prevent a Trump. That was the purpose of it. It was to prevent a tyrant. But the Republicans didn't play by the rules and they didn't use the very mechanisms that were set up there to do. And so given what the purpose of it was to serve, I don't think it has value. Besides, it's also
nobody ever has the balls in them, or the spine in them, to stop a person who's getting power in their own party. The thing that amazed me was the only electors that were like, "Nah, we're not voting for the person that has the votes," were Hillary electors who voted Bernie.
Does much good.
Just, it's the misogyny runs deep. It's like, we couldn't possibly give our votes to the person who could get us out of this. We're throwing them over to Bernie, and God damn it. Oh, man.
I don't know how much time we have left, but do you want to talk about vaccines, about the COVID?
Yes, let's definitely do that. It's basically, I go anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. So
I didn't know if there was like a set time limit, but
it's basically
about vaccines and the COVID
until either you have to go or the 2 hour mark, whichever comes first, or until I really have to pee or Science Dog gets too annoying.
I have to go because you'll see one of my kids running in here and like bothering me or something.
Nice.
My hair's dry. I think I told you I like hopped out of the shower before I came over here. So
nice. I actually washed my well, not just my hair, but myself as a whole today. So look, you guys are getting the good smelling me for a change. Oh my. Anyways, talk about vaccines. This is highly requested.
I thought I'd see if people had questions about the COVID vaccine, because I think what a lot of people, there's so much misunderstanding out there about it now, and I don't know what questions people have, so I thought that might be fun to talk about. I will say that one thing people were surprised to hear from me was I was getting frustrated with how many people were saying, "Oh my God, I'm worried about vaccine hesitancy with the COVID vaccine." And I was like, the more you
I've tried to.
is your hair drier then? It was a Ben Shapiro joke. Well done.
Oh man, it's it's her. It's I'm guessing even her hair is wetter than that. Like, man, that poor woman. Like, I feel like we should we should chip in and all send a Hitachi to her. Just like whatever we can do. I feel that would be an act of good.
Age is wetter than he's a desert animal.
Oh my God. I just.
So anyway, I got really frustrated when I was seeing all this, like, oh my God, pearl clutching about worrying about vaccine hesitancy with the COVID vaccine. But for two reasons. One, we have so many other things to worry about with that vaccine. The vaccine hesitancy is low on the list.
Yeah.
It might have been in a couple years, but it's not right now. But the other thing people don't realize is vaccines work on norms. Most people get vaccines because most people get vaccines. And the more you repeat this narrative of 60% of people don't know if they want to get the vaccine, 70% of people don't know if they want to get the vaccine, guess what you're doing? You're convincing the people who were going to get the vaccine that maybe they don't want to get the vaccine. You're eating the problem.
And this is why I was so happy to get into a vaccine trial, was because there were people that were following my page who were obviously science supporting people, but had gotten nervous because of all the chatter around the vaccine. And of course,
be able to just knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, and of course, because so many people, like, there was just so much chatter that it had been pushed through too quickly, and because Trump was like, "We'll have it out by November 3rd." But obviously, like, people were nervous about that, and I don't blame them. But having gone through the trial and being like, "Hey, like, here's me after possibly getting the vaccine, I was willing to do it. I put my immune system." On the line for this. A lot of people were like, I'm going to sign up for the trial now. I'm not scared to get the vaccine now because you went and you got it. And I'm like, just please remember that I could have gotten the placebo, but I was like, the fact that I was willing to get that it made people less scared, because it was kind of like, it's to clarify, I'm not comparing myself to Elvis here. I haven't died in a toilet seat with heroin in my arm yet. There's time. It's early in the pandemic. This goes to 2023, and who knows? But like Elvis, when the polio vaccine came out, he went on live television and got the polio shot in his arm, and it did help convince people, oh, this is a thing I should do. And I think that I wonder why these large trials haven't reached out to more science bloggers who have audiences that could be like, that are reachable and convincible. And it kind of surprised me that I had audience members who needed convincing that this was safe. But it strikes me that because of how much we've rushed it, and because of how unknown everything is about this, that even science-based, very evidence-based thinkers are going to be hesitant on this one. And isn't
not seeing what if it goes through the proper trials. There's like, in the proper channels. It does. You don't need to worry about it. The question is whether it goes to the proper channels, and that's what I think we should be paying attention to. Kat Lowe asked if the vaccine will be live. There are some of the development, I think, is working with live vaccines, but very few. Most of them are not working with live vaccines. I doubt that the one that will be whatever we end up with in the U.S., probably at least initially will not be live, because the leading candidates right now are not. It doesn't mean we might not have one later on, but right now the leading candidates in the U.S. are not live vaccines.
Yeah, I think one of the vaccines was just a straight up deadened strain of or a weakened strain of it, which is the most classical.
Others are doing. There's a lot of creative things that they're doing, like the RNA DNA ones are actually kind of cool. The RNA ones, that's the one that oh gosh, what's the name of the country? Moderna is doing, and that's the one that's out there. They don't even use the pathogen itself isn't even used in their vaccine. What they did, they looked at the RNA strand that's in the vaccine, that's in the virus, and then they built their own little mini RNA that goes in, and like the messenger RNA, not to get too technical, goes in and tells the cells, hey, go make the antibodies against this virus. Nice. So it's not, and I think that's one of the reasons that they were able to go straight to human trials and not have animal trials initially. They did eventually have animal trials, but not right away, because the actual pathogen was never used in the creation of the vaccine itself. There are some that are looking at the more traditional, deactivated coronavirus virus being killed or deactivated and used. And then there's other ones that are used, like they'll use another virus as a carrier, and they'll put the antigens, the things that your body recognizes, the immune system recognizes and goes after, they'll put those proteins in the carrier virus, which is harmless. So there's lots of different versions that are out there of ones that are happening. But
like I want to say, I think the Johnson & Johnson one is using using the adenovirus vector. I believe
that's a conjugate vaccine, basically. I think it's a conjugate vaccine. There's different. It's a subunit vaccine for sure. Whether it's conjugate or not, I have to look closely at theirs. But and the populations. Another question about whether it'll be safe if they're on chemo. That one of the big questions will be what populations should get it, because that's going to depend on, first of all, who was in the trial. One of the things I'm actually uneasy about is there has not been, to my knowledge, any trials with pregnant women or children. And if you don't have pregnant women or children, you can't give the vaccine to pregnant women or children. Yeah. So that's one of my concerns. And maybe there are some that I haven't followed, but that's one of the things I'm worried about.
No, I've read through the J&J trial plan. Like, they gave us one, and then of course I went online to read what they had there. I know at first it was something like 60,000 people of X age, and they were trying to get it's. And at first they were like 60,000, or the population they wanted for the first a couple thousand people. They wanted all healthy people with no pre-existing conditions, and then they opened it up to people who had other conditions. Right. For the whole thing.
So have people with comorbidities, because those are the ones that are going to need it. And then once it gets approved, you go to, what happens is the CDC's ACIP, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, they will look at the data that came from the phase 3 trials, and maybe the phase 1 and 2 trials, depending, but mostly the phase 3 trials. And they will say, okay, we are going to recommend that this group between these ages that do, get 2 doses of the vaccine 8 weeks apart, right? And then if there, and the contraindications, people who have X, Y, and Z should not get the vaccine. So, it's going to be a matter of waiting to see.
Yeah.
Oh, they're starting a pretrial. That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. I haven't. It's impossible to follow every single trial that's out there because there's so many.
Yeah. There are like over 100 vaccines right now in various stages.
It's incredible how many are out there, but
it's just
I do have confidence, as long as the 2 committees that can't be skipped are VRBPAC and ACIP. Okay. VRBPAC is I forget, it's like the vaccines and biological something or other. It's VRBPAC with the FDA. It's a long thing, but that's the FDA's like subcommittee that looks at the evidence and makes the recommendation to the FDA, and it's made of independent experts that cannot be bought in the way that maybe. I'm not going to say that the people at the FDA can be bought, but I will say that I have lost confidence in the leadership of the FDA, and that is frustrating. I hate that. But I think that the majority of people working at the CDC are still dutiful public servants who believe in science and do what they're told, or will do what the science says, not do what they're told. Do what the science says, but they are being drowned out by the top. So I think it is reasonable to have some concerns about what the FDA and the CDC at the top are doing, but I don't have those concerns about those smaller committees, VRBPAC and ACIP. So, and those are also. VRBPAC just had their most recent meeting last Thursday. Those are all public meetings too. Anybody can watch them. So anybody, as long as they're going through VRBPAC and as long as they go through ACIP, I will feel confident about the vaccine. Because then it's not reliant just on the people at the top.
Yeah.
But
no, those are all really good points. And I hope you guys.
My blouse is covered in neurons. I thought about wearing. I actually almost wore my my dress. I have an antibodies dress. That's the one I wore on Fox. Ooh, the one I wore had antibodies all over it. So if you go and look at the Fox, so
I was about to say if you can I know you can read chat if you want to link to the Fox interview for people to see. Go ahead and drop that in chat.
Oh, how do I? Oh, okay. I didn't even see. That's private chat. That's with you and other guests. Okay, yeah, I can pull that up.
Yep.
So what other questions do people have about the vaccines?
see. Scrolling through.
I can't scroll on mine. I tried and
Oh, okay, never mind. I apologize. I never know if I do not know what someone can see as a guest on this.
I can see like the top 2 or 3 depending on how long they are.
Gotcha.
And then it goes out of
Oh.
Okay, there's my Fox thing. So.
Oh, gotcha. There.
Yeah, and you'll see if you look closely, you'll see my RBG doll is in the Fox as well. I have little cute dolls of
Here we go.
Send
that in chat for everyone to have a look at if y'all would like to see that. Let's see. Have you heard anything about the extent to which the glycan shielding of a spike?
You ask a question like that. I know, Ed. Sorry. I do not. That is most people reading this. I don't even think will know what that question means. Spike is. Yeah, that's why.
I'm like I'm sitting here going. I've turned into a.
The spike protein is what he's talking about, and the spike protein is one of the major antigens that they're working with. Any antigen, that word antigen means it's the protein that the immune system recognizes as the intruder. It's the part. So, for example, if I walked into a room in disguise, but I then took off my mask, the rest of me is still in disguise. It's my face that tells everyone, you don't belong here. That my face is the antigen. Okay, so my face is the antigen. I'm gonna make a T-shirt that says that.
Nice.
But the spike protein, which is the little spikes that are on the actual virus.
Yeah.
I don't have my giant microbes plushies yet, so I can't show you. But that spike protein is what most of the vaccines are using as the antigen. That's what most of the vaccines are using to get the immune system to respond to it. And he's talking about the way that the spike protein is encapsulated, and I'm not going to go into it because I actually don't know the answer anyway. So I don't know the answer, Ed, but my gosh, that's a hyper specific question.
Yeah, I'm like, you're delving deep there, my friend. This was that was more than gesundheit. That was a lot.
Health, so he's cheating.
We'll take it. Let's see. Let's try to grab a few more. Let's see. Other than that, like there was one more thing I wanted to point out, and I've said this basically every week when questions about vaccines and how we're gonna deal with everyone who doesn't want to get it and who's a vaccine denier. Guys, we're not going to have enough vaccines to push them on everyone right away. So the problem of people saying I refuse a vaccine isn't going to be a problem for 2 years. Like that's at first there will be
want it first.
Yeah, exactly. So eventually 2 years out, when people are there are, the jackasses that are still like, I'm not vaccinating. I just want to live my life. And they're suddenly, and those people still occasionally see their friends and family getting sick and then are like, well, I guess I want the vaccine now. Then we worry about them. But like, while people are refusing the vaccine and some people are desperate to get it, we don't worry about the people that are just like, nah. Like eventually we worry about them, but we don't need to right now. Like not even a concern right now. Try to get yourself.
I'm going to give you the link for giant microbes. You can
gotcha.
It's a great. I do own a lot of them. I just don't have them. I don't have the coronavirus one, but I have a lot of the other ones. I have measles and I have a bunch. I actually got those when I was teaching high school, and I had the common cold. And if kids weren't paying attention, I would toss it and say, here, catch a cold. And all the kids would go. I was that kind of teacher.
What I was going to say, how big are the giant microbes?
There's different sizes. Most of them are this big.
I think I've seen I worked at a science museum shop.
I'm thinking if I had one handy. I know where some are in the other room if you want me to go and grab one. But I also have like the Christmas size ones. They're like babies. They're like this big.
No.
Here, I'll be right back. You better. And I'll show you something.
I'll be here. The necrotizing fasciitis one that we sold was my favorite. Quick announcement while she's getting those, guys. So starting Tuesday, and from Tuesday every day on until the election, I'm putting on a live stream various days of the week, having some comedians, having some politicos, look. It's gonna be a long fucking week, and y'all are all gonna be stressed out. So on Wednesday night, my friend Maddie D, who's a comic and a podcaster, who does the Ice Cream Social podcast, is going to be on. He also is a writer for Penn and Teller. Great guy. Also has turned into a magician, because of course he has. But he's going to be on. Dan Broadbent, who runs A Science Enthusiast, is going to be on Friday. And I'm working on lining up people for the other days of the week. So it's just, we have a list of people who volunteered to come on the show in the next week. So it's going to be a long list. But election night, we'll be doing many hours of broadcasting, basically from whenever I start, which I think will be at like 4 p.m. PST, until whenever we either know who's won, or until we know that we won't know that night. So it's going to be a long week. Just want to let you guys know there will be a lot of streaming. So anyways, do we have microbes?
Yes.
We have giant microbes?
These are ones that I got at a conference I attended, because they were given away with, like, when you go to a medical conference and you go out into the what do you call it, the big convention area. And so these are special made for that. But this one here is rotavirus.
Oh.
Okay.
It's so cute.
Salmonella, I think. Yeah, this one's, no, these are small ones. They're normally a lot bigger than this. Like, this one is, you can see my hand. The large version of this one, or the average size one, would go from like here to here.
Nice.
So kind of like the Christmas ornament size. This one's E. coli.
Oh.
This one's just called stomach. And then antibodies. I have lots of antibodies.
Nice. Those are so cute.
So they're great teaching tools too. They have the one I want to buy right now is called Plagues of the 20th Century, and it's like Zika and Ebola and
you remember for 5 minutes when Zika was a thing and we were actually concerned about it?
I had an article on Zika that I wrote for Medscape, and it kind of got dragged out, and it was supposed to go live around February, and then it got held because of the pandemic. And it got published maybe a month or two ago, and it was so funny because it was like, oh yeah, Zika, remember that?
That's still so I read the craziest thing the other day, and I'm surprised that that a bigger deal hasn't been made of this. That there is a fungus that has been that's often spread in hospital. It's something it's something aureus. It's whatever Candida auris. I think it's
yeah. Okay, yeah.
So, and then they named it that because basically every fungus is Candida, and they originally located it in someone's ear, and it has about a 30 to 60% fatality rate for infections, which is absurdly high, and people are catching it in hospitals. And a lot of people now, what they're having trouble figuring out is, are people who are catching this, like there are people who are catching this when they're hospitalized for COVID, and how many of the people who have been hospitalized for COVID who have died from it are dying from opportunistic Candida auris.
It's been a problem for a long time. I mean, that's been a long time problem, especially with antibiotic resistance. But this is new. Yeah, the fungal one is scary and new. And
because it's resistant to
recommendation real quick. Sorry, I have to do this because if you like end of the world scenarios and you want to read about a pandemic and an election that is eerily similar to what we're in right now, read The Wanderers by Chuck Wendig. It is a long book, but it is amazing, and it is very much on the nose for right now. But what made me think of it was you mentioned the fungus, and in that book, it's a fungus, not a bacteria. That is.
This one is. I'll check that. I mean, I'll read anything by Chuck Wendig because he's a fucking great writer.
Yeah, he's amazing, and he researched it so well.
Nice.
It's amazingly researched. It's really awesome. It's a long book, but it's worth it, and it's it's kind of cool because you'll recognize characters in a way. Like one of the characters very clearly seemed based on someone I know who works at the CDC, who's high up CDC. So he did his research for sure.
Nice.
But it's got a very Trump-like character in it.
Man.
In it is a woman, and it's this pandemic that happened. It's really good. It's worth reading.
Nice. I'll throw that onto the very long.
Now you can talk about scary fungus that's killing everybody now.
That is look, without interruptions, no one would ever get a word in edgewise against me. So please interrupt me. But yeah, like this, reading up on this one I was really surprised. I'm like, this is a thing that's been happening and no one's been talking about it. But there have already been over 1,000 cases diagnosed in the U.S. this year, which is like I want to say it was more than
as of September 22nd was 1,302. So 1,302 cases as of September 22nd. Dang, this is scary.
Which is higher than we've ever. I think higher than we've ever seen in a year.
Emerging infection.
Yeah, and it is. I believe it is always resistant to one class of antifungals, and it is often resistant to a second class. And there's only 3 classes of antifungals.
Available classes of antifungals.
Yeah, there's a third class of antifungals that is mostly not resistant to, but that's kind of the break glass in case of emergency antifungals. And antifungals are very toxic to the liver, which is why you try to avoid the top shelf one as much as possible. But that's it's one of the big problems. They're seeing major outbreaks of this in India right now, and they don't even have that third class of antibiotics commonly in India. So they're just, someone gets it and they're like, we're mostly fucked. So it's the big problem right now, because we're putting in all of our efforts towards a COVID vaccine. Is all right, we need to retool some labs and take some, how do we take away some of that global energy that's all being put into a vaccine and treatment and management for this one disease, and try to push some of it towards this thing that's not as big yet, but could easily turn big. And when it gets around, it kills a huge percentage of people. It is like one person said, like if you, one doctor that was interviewed for it said, if you thought COVID-19 was scary, this makes COVID-19 look like a cold. Like 30 to 60% of people dead.
Viruses often get a lot of the attention, but bacteria can be pretty nasty, and people always forget about fungus. They always they remember, they know about viruses, they know about bacteria. They forget that fungi, can be pretty disastrous. And then there's prions. You want to talk about scary? Go learn about prions. Those things are scary. That's what disease was. It's a prion disease.
Which one?
Mad cow disease.
Oh yeah.
Bovine encephalitis or whatever. Bovine something encephalitis. Prions are not usually as much of a risk as the others, but
it's what, when you get one, it's
all kinds of crazy microscopic stuff that can kill us.
Yeah, it's
the author, The Wanderers by Chuck Wendig. He was asking what the name of the book I was talking about.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I like to remind people of. Nature is always trying to kill you. Mm-hmm. So when people are like, nature has,
I want something that's natural. I'm like, you realize that most, natural is.
I'm just saying,
natural things that can kill you.
Like man-made shit has been keeping us alive for a while. Like buildings and warm stuff, and like there's and porgs. Like there are so many things that have been keeping life better for us. And I'm just saying, I will take all of the. Like I'm just all of the things that have been good for no, it's I don't want to say everything good for us is man-made, because that's a little bit of a stretch, but like nature is always trying to kill us, where it is not out there being a bastion of wonderfulness for
if
us.
You think everything natural is good, go try and camp naked in Australia.
Just look, there's.
You can camp naked in New Zealand. Nothing in New Zealand will kill you. You get some mosquito bites, but man, you try and go to Australia, everything's trying to kill you, right?
There are still
the sharks, everything wants. the saltwater
There's-
crocodiles, the insects. Yeah.
Look, plutonium is 100% natural. You could eat some plutonium. I don't suggest eating plutonium, but you could. Just tell me how that works out. Tell me how that naturalness.
Brains. Halloween's coming up. Brains is my favorite meal on Halloween.
Oh, it's don't eat any brains.
It does suck that the Halloween, when we get a full moon in the month of Friday the 13th on a Saturday, it does suck that that's like the Halloween that we can't do anything about.
Man, like I haven't even like I haven't put any thought into my costume this year because like what am I gonna fucking do? Like I'll live stream it. You guys can see it via here. Like I'm gonna end up recycling a costume probably because I don't want to go out to a shop and buy a costume in a store with a bunch of other people that are going to also be in that store touching things and look. Just nah. I'll throw on some clothes and be like, this is my costume. This is
my son's one of them, he wanted this it's sort of like this super soldier costume. I don't know what the hell it is, but he wanted it. And so I ordered it and it came in and he kept asking like, is it here yet? Is it here yet? And when it came in, he immediately wanted to change into it, even though he was still in his virtual school. So we're going to do like an orange non-Easter Halloween egg hunt of candy with flashlights in the dark decorated.
Nice. That sounds like fun.
You have to get creative when you're a parent.
So how is that? Is he in physical school or is he distance learning?
Or what's in virtual school? Because my husband and I both have high risk. We both have a medical history that puts us at pretty high risk. I had a pulmonary embolism when I was 18.
Oh my God.
70% of my vena cava. Like the only reason it didn't kill me is it got stuck. It was only like an inch or so in my heart. So we have embolism history. I'm high risk. And then my husband's got some high risk. So both of ours are doing virtual school, which I will say it's working better than I thought it would. I know it doesn't work for everyone, and it really depends on the district and the teachers, because if it's too packed with too many activities where they have to be on a whole lot, that's not good. And if they have too much unstructured time, that's not really good. So you got to find the sweet spot between them. But it's going better than I thought it would.
Nice. I've seen recently, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. It's as you know, because we're both scientists, obviously, who are working in epidemiology, so we can unravel all this data. Not really. There have been a couple articles recently saying that these schools are not sources of spread. That these
legit. It's what we're seeing. The evidence is. There is not evidence to suggest that there is a lot of spread occurring in the schools. There is not. That is true. Now there are cases in the schools, but those cases mostly are occurring outside of the school, and then the kids are coming into school, and then it's finding out that they go and they get tested. That is mostly because the schools are taking it seriously. Now it's going to vary depending on where you are, but there's a couple things to keep in mind. One, a lot of schools are only at partial capacity. So my kids, some of their classmates are in the school, but only about maybe 40% of them are, if that, 30 or 40%. So the school is at lower capacity, which makes it easier to space apart. And they are using spacing in the classroom. Yeah. They're required to wear masks. So Tango and someone has a question in Spanish. They are required to wear masks. And the school is very, they are very, very picky about, let us know if your child is sick. They, they do contact tracing. I mean, basically they're doing everything right. And that's not every school. Lots of schools are not doing everything right, but a lot of schools are. They're trying to increase the ventilation, or they're using fans, and they're doing what they can. And if you use good ventilation, if you require the kids to wear masks, if you space them apart, if you have lots of stations for hand washing or hand sanitizer, and you have a low capacity in the room, then and you're vigilant about telling your parents not to bring the kid to school sick. And I don't know if they're doing temperature checks or not, but so it's true that right now we are not seeing a lot of spread in schools, which I think is to the credit of the schools themselves doing the right thing. That could change. I don't think it means we have disproved. We used to think that it didn't transmit a lot between kids, that kids weren't, transmitting it as much as adults. That's been disproven now.
It's not that they don't transmit it, it's that it's that school is the one place where they've really taken the advice.
Now, that said, on the flip side, guess where a lot of transmission is occurring? Kids' team sports.
So that kind of
big things that are driving the pandemic right now, in order, are family gatherings,
yep,
team sports, parties.
So it's not
drivers of the pandemic right now.
So when people say it's
not school, not work,
not
seriously because they're smart enough to know they need to. But gatherings is the big one. I mean, please, everyone who's listening to this, please, for God's sakes, do not go to a big Thanksgiving. Okay?
No, have it like it's. I know that we all want to see Grandma for Thanksgiving.
There from Edward, children are critical vectors for like everything.
It's like if you have ever been a teacher, especially of young children, which my mom was.
Now because of it.
Oh yeah, like my mom has said, she's like, I got sick with everything the first year that I taught
immune system because I taught.
Oh yeah, she's like, I came home with something new every couple of weeks the first year.
As easily as anyone else. It's just that kids were not out and about in the community until school started. So the question now is whether there's the thing that we want to watch for is there in-school transmission occurring? We do not currently see much evidence that that's occurring right now. That could change if the schools are filled up to 100% capacity.
Yeah.
It could change if they loosen up on what they're doing. It could change if, there's other factors that could lead to changes there. But right now that's looking good. So, that's good. But anyway, yeah, going back to family gatherings, for God's sakes, please, we already discussed it with my parents, and my sister's a teacher. And I was like, listen, I love my sister, and she's doing what she has to do, and she's teaching, and her kids, therefore, are in face-to-face school. But we can't hang out with them until they've been out of that school for 2 weeks. So we'll have a delayed Christmas. We are going to meet them up for Christmas, but we're going to wait until 2 weeks after, basically toward the end of her school break.
Yeah.
The winter break is about 2 weeks longish. So right at the end of her winter break, when she's been out of the school for 2 weeks, then we'll all get together. But we're not doing it for Thanksgiving because it's just not safe. Yeah, it sucks, but so does dying.
Yeah, I've heard that rumor. It's like I want to, like I said, I want to see my relatives. Like it's. I think I had like a kind of a nutty crying jag earlier this week when it just hit me really hard that the holidays are here.
I'm on Thanksgiving, but do you want to bury her at New Year's Eve? No, you don't.
Like it's mainly because we really can't go. Like they're not letting people go to I don't know if they're letting the entire family go to funerals yet, or if it's still like limited to a certain number of people.
It depends on where you are. I actually just went to a memorial service for someone on Zoom earlier this week.
Yeah, like I had a great aunt who died early in the pandemic, and she died of unrelated causes to COVID. She was just old, and it's up in Canada, and they had a burial, but we're not allowed to have any sort of memorial until this is all over. It's just really like, how do you? It's weird on the rules on funerals. Vary, and they're strict and difficult. So Pulse Reloaded asked, Orange Man says we're weeks away from the vaccine. Is he lying? Yes,
he is. Yes, he is lying. We are. I was talking to someone about this earlier today. Here's the thing that you need to understand about. There's only one way to speak. Okay. You get your phase 1 trials, that's looking at safety and efficacy, a small number of people. Phase 2 trials, a little bit more people trying to get the dose right, safety and efficacy. Phase 3 trials are the ones that matter. That's when you get like 10,000, 15,000 people.
Yeah.
Give half of them the placebo and half of them the vaccine.
Yep.
Then you have to wait. You have to wait and see who gets sick. You can speed that up, and I'll get to that in a minute. But for the most part, you can't speed that up. You can't like fast forward time to see who gets sick. You have to wait.
I know in the Johnson & Johnson trial, it's 60,000 people total, and they need and it's 30,000 people for each vaccine and placebo, and they are waiting for 150 people of the placebo group to get sick, basically.
Yeah, we need people to get sick. One of the reasons I did not sign up for a trial, one is because of my history of the pulmonary embolism, because that is a bit of a risk given the situation. But another reason is we are totally locked down. I wouldn't be of any value to the vaccine trial because I don't interact with other people at all. So we have to, ironically, the very things that we're trying to do to reduce illness are the things that are going to drag out the vaccine trial for longer, because we need to wait until enough people get sick to say, okay, compare the number in the placebo group with the number who got the vaccine. Now, there is one way to speed that up, and those are challenge trials. A challenge trial is where you intentionally, you give one group the vaccine, and then you give half of those people, like you inject them with coronavirus, with the COVID.
Yeah. And that's a huge ethical, like now, that is a much
here. And you certainly cannot do challenge trials on more vulnerable populations. You need to have a very healthy population to do that with. And there's all kinds of, they need to be at a center where they have top of the line doctors.
Yeah.
The informed consent is a really tricky process. You want to make sure that they have medical care. If they get COVID and it's bad and they have problems 20 years from now, that has to be covered. So, and there are a couple of companies looking at challenge trials, so that could speed it up. But otherwise, you can't speed up that phase 3. A realistic ETA is so hard right now. I will be excited if we have a vaccine for the most vulnerable or frontline essential folks next summer. Now, we might have something in February or March, but I don't know. Having it licensed, I don't know. I really don't know. If we do, great. I would love to be wrong about this. Like, if all the things I can be wrong about, please let me be wrong about how long it will take to get a vaccine.
Yeah, like I would guess that it's going to be it's someone earlier said, and I don't know if they were being facetious. I don't know if they were a Trumplican, but someone said, "What are the odds that this all disappears right after the election?" People are dying. In red and blue states, people are getting sick and filling up hospitals. I don't think that it's suddenly going to be just.
This is with us for a while. This is with us for a long while.
This is happening in other countries. This is happening all around the world. This is happening in countries with authoritarian dictators. This is happening in socialist and.
What's interesting is places like, was it Rwanda? I want to say it was Rwanda. I'm trying to remember. It did really well in controlling the disease. Vietnam did fantastic at controlling disease.
Yeah.
Because those are places that more recently had infectious diseases killing a large number of their population. So they take it seriously. They get it.
Yeah.
Whereas, a lot of the Western nations that haven't dealt with this, people don't realize this is a pandemic. Like, we have not had, the last time we had a pandemic was really HIV, really.
Yeah, and we didn't take it seriously then either. The government was like, "Fuck those people,"
And this is obviously far more contagious than. I guess it's easier to spread it. I guess
HIV was not airborne.
Right. Exactly.
And I mean, that's one of the things that. That's one of the things that like whenever people try to bring this up and compare it to other things, like, we didn't shut down everything for AIDS. We didn't. It's like. Yeah, we didn't shut down the things that involved breathing for there were a lot of things that we didn't shut down for.
Well, the people who think it's dangerous just to go outside, and I'm like, no, it's not being outside, and it's not being in a place that's dangerous. It's other people who are dangerous.
Yeah, it's other people who are unmasked in an enclosed area. When I see people complaining about protesters, it's like, the protesters that are outside and they're masked tend to not spread this, and it's because of how this kind of makes this little plume around you when you're. And it's like. I keep seeing that argument back and forth of why are you against the Trump rallies, but you're not saying anything about the BLM protesters. I'm like, because Trump rallies are inside. People are stationary for long periods of time, standing still. And they dissuade people from mask usage. Yeah. And they went out and had these when Trump was more than likely still contagious. And there has been an uptick in cases in many of the places where he's just had, and not just an uptick, but
really killed. The big things you're seeing across the Midwest right now, like South Dakota, Ohio, Iowa, North Dakota. That was Sturgis. That's Sturgis.
Oh, yeah.
The big motorcycle rally. My parents have been to Sturgis about 5 times. My parents are big biker people, and they did not go to Sturgis this year because they had rain.
Yes.
So
yeah, and
someone asked whether the vaccine will probably be a shot or a pill or something. It'll certainly be an injection.
Yeah, mine was via injection.
That's
and
most common.
and cost, I'm gonna guess Trump was a victor. I'm gonna guess based on Katie Porter nailing the head of the CDC's ass to the wall on this that it will be free. That was
I
one.
hold my breath on that. I mean, that's what Trump said. That's what
I hope
it's going to be in the insurance company's best interest to make it free, and it is going to be in the country's best interest to pay for anyone to get it who doesn't have insurance. Like, I can't imagine that there is no reason not to pay for it because it's public health.
It's kind of like covering birth control or covering a whole nother human. Like pregnancy is
expensive than the other.
Like you can pay from a $50 thing of pills every month, or you can pay for a baby, baby, and all the ultrasounds and all the stuff that comes out of my ends zone, and when the baby comes out. I'm just saying, pay from a birth control pill insurance. But yeah, this is the same thing.
I'm like, why would you not pay for birth control pills? That's just the stupidest.
Because of Jesus, Tara Haley.
Economics.
But yeah, that's I see no reason why they wouldn't cover this. A couple people said like the flu shot. Yeah, it's
flu shot, everybody.
They cover please get your flu shots. The only thing, as I've driven home before, the only thing stopping you from getting both the flu and COVID is potentially getting a flu shot. So please do. My dentist that also fixed my headaches because that's normal. My dentist he found out that he had COVID and the flu at the same time.
Wow.
At first, they only thought it was the flu, and then it turned out he had COVID antibodies. And he's like, I've never been this sick, and I just figured it was the flu because it was early enough in the pandemic that we didn't know who had what, but he'd been traveling. And he, like my dad, we've gotten to be friends. He showed me pictures of the blood that he'd coughed onto the napkins. I'm like, I didn't need to see that.
Oh, yeah, that's a bit TMI-ish.
Yeah, but you know what? I looked at that. I'm like, I believe you that you have the antibodies now. I feel better about this. So.
What I tell people with the flu shot is, because people say, well, it doesn't work very well. You know what? It doesn't work very well. The flu shot is the shittiest vaccine we've got that we recommend. Yeah. It's not a great vaccine because the flu is one hell of a tricky virus. But it still can cut the risk of catching it in half. And even if you still get it, even if you still get flu after getting the flu shot, my kids 1 year, they got the flu shot. They got flu A and flu B that year.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. But they also only missed like 3 total days of school.
Wow.
It was mild and it went down really fast. So yeah, don't get the flu shot to prevent the flu if that's what you're worried about. Get the flu shot so you don't end up in the damn hospital or you don't end up dead from it, because people do die from the flu. Maybe not as, of course they don't die from the flu as much as they do from COVID.
Yeah.
But it still isn't fun. And if you can make it less serious.
Yeah, this will take more than likely the severity down quite a few notches. And this is something I read recently, because I kept seeing people talking about how so many cases of COVID were asymptomatic, and this was, a weird thing. And I'm like, it's estimated that between 70 and 95% of cases of polio were asymptomatic.
Yes.
So I went down a rabbit hole to see how many cases of other things were asymptomatic. And I was surprised by this one. This could probably vary study to study, but up to 80% of cases of the flu are asymptomatic.
Oh, really? No, that I didn't know.
I'm
to figure out with that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that figure varies. I wanted to find more studies on that, but I can only find one. But a ton of cases of the flu
are flu, but I don't know what the rates are. It's really hard to get those numbers. They always have to be extrapolated, because why would you test someone from the flu who doesn't have symptoms?
It tracked people over the course of several years who were vaccinators and non-vaccinators. And basically I think they were only tracking the people who had not vaccinated for if they'd gotten the flu. And over the course of 5 years annually, out of the people, they basically tracked who had antibodies, who
Gotcha.
got it, and it was typically 18%, or I forget what percentage of people had it, but out of the people that got antibodies, only about 20% of them ever had symptoms. So that was, and I mean, that's not a perfect test of it.
Might go to, a lot of people don't know the difference between infection and disease. Infection means that the virus or the bacteria gets into you and starts to replicate. Disease means you actually have the symptoms of that. And there are some vaccines that will prevent disease but not prevent infection. Ideally, one that prevents infection if you can. By the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed, if you guys have seen it, I am being haunted by Pence. I've had this damn fly. At one point, the fly was sitting on my computer in like the and like sort of pointing up. It was on my computer for like 5 straight minutes, and all I could do was like, I was trying to look at your face, but your face had a there it is. See, it's flying around.
Oh my God.
So I keep thinking.
Oh, it's like, did you hear a ton of Mike Pence's staff has COVID?
Yeah.
And he won't
COVID right now.
And he refuses to quarantine, like, because he wants to go and confirm Amy Coney Barrett this week. And it's almost, he almost assuredly has it. Like, he either, even if,
at this point,
like, even if he's not testing positive right now, he's been exposed too recently, and it's like, too bad. We need our 6th Supreme Court seat.
Fly. Children's book.
Oh, bye fly.
Oh, you know what? Do I have? Where is it? There is this children's book. I don't know if I can see it quickly. Darn it! This children's book that came out right before Trump was elected, that was so prophetic.
God.
Called President Squid, and I'm trying to see.
President Squid. Oh my God.
Let me see if it's over here. I'm like looking at my books.
President Squid.
You should go check out the library. It's called President Squid, and it's so creepy. It's a genuine child's book. It's a children's book. And I wish I'd thought of it earlier, because I would have had it ready and I could have read it to you guys, because it's about this squid that wants to be president because he thinks it's like he'll get really famous and he'll get to like boss people around.
Oh my God.
It's so weird. And it came out before Trump was, it was already written in the editing stages before he even ran.
Like, I'll never get over that time that Omarosa.
You know what? Yeah.
I like
election night. I'll read it. I'll find it and I'll read it on night for you.
We will have you on election night. I think it's I'm basically going to schedule people for half-hour blocks for election night, because I'm sure people are going to want to, like, hang out with their families and, pray that democracy, even if you don't believe in God, pray for democracy's life. But like, my plan is, like, I'm going to be on edibles all night. I will not be sober. I suggest people come with whatever drugs are legal in their state or not legal and pretend they're in California. It's a state of mind. So I don't want anyone to be more sober than they want to be on election night.
We probably won't know on November 4th who the president is. I mean,
and this is
out.
And this is what I'm telling people is like, I think when you were off screen, I don't know if you were close enough that you could hear or not. But what I'm telling people is, like, I'm probably going to start broadcasting at about 4 p.m. because as of like an hour after that is when the first polls start to close on the East Coast, and we'll start to get results after that, and we can start talking about, like, how many votes we have in from early voting, what that bodes for the country. Like, we're on track right now to get something like 150 million votes, which is just record shattering.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And we know that when more people vote, Democrats tend to win. So come the fuck on, Senate. We could flip this. It could happen. It's just everything. Anyways, it's been about 2 hours now.
I probably need to go eat something.
Right. Yes. You need to do stuff. I need to do stuff. There is a breakfast sandwich calling my name downstairs. I have bacon to cook. Anyways, thank you so much for hanging out with me and for agreeing to come on election night. Where can people find more of everything Tara Haley?
Easiest is probably Twitter, which is just at TARAHAELLE. I'm on Facebook as well, but I am horrible. I need to learn some lessons from you. I'm just not good about keeping my Facebook sort of like going and active. I also write for Forbes, so occasionally you'll see my articles there, although I haven't written a lot from them in a while. But Twitter is probably the easiest place to find me. So
Nice.
I've just started. I'm also on Instagram now, finally. I've had an Instagram account for ages, but I haven't used it. But now that I'm trying to do a lot more physical activity each day, I'm using it to like keep myself accountable, basically. So
I see you working out, and I'm like, I've been a slug since midway through the pandemic when the fire started.
Yeah, I gained a lot of weight in the summertime. I don't want to say the number, but let's just say I was playing a lot of Animal Crossing and drinking a lot of wine, and that did not do me any favors.
I did a lot of junk food eating too. Like there was a period on there where I was like, hey, you know what I'm going to do to survive? Comfort eat. That was.
Yep.
There was much comfort eating. It kept me sane. I'm surprised that I only gained the COVID-6, so I was happy with that.
Right.
Until I tried to squeeze into my skinny jeans, and I was like, the COVID-6 was enough.
Yeah, I wish it was just 6 for me. That was not. But thank you. Beth Hamage's comment that she'd seen my writing. Thank you.
You've motivated me to start biking again. So I see your stuff, and you're like, there is no good reason for me to not like.
I was out biking before I came on this. That's why I had to hop in the shower beforehand. So it looked all disgusting because I was out on the bike.
No, it's like I stopped when it just smelled of smoke so badly that your lungs were. Oh yeah, it's
like smoke outside. So that's rough.
Yeah, like it's when something knocks you off your routine, like you just you're off your routine and you have to get something to start again. Yeah, but seeing you working out, I'm like, okay, fine. I'll do it because Tara's doing it and I have to be a better person. So I appreciate that you're giving me motivation. Anyways,
I'm trying to motivate my kids to do it because they're not getting active. Like it's not just me who's gaining weight. One of my kids has gained a little bit more than I'd like. So yeah.
Yeah. Just, keeping ourselves healthy is a thing that is going to keep us keeping ourselves healthy in general.
At that right now.
Yeah, it's like keeping our weight at a healthy point and I'm surprised at how just directly weight itself is tied to bad outcomes from COVID. So like keeping ourselves at a healthy weight is gonna keep us healthy during this pandemic. So it's been like, it's why I'm like, all right, I can, if I'm at the top of the healthy weight range, it's fine. I can be even a few pounds overweight, but gotta keep it at an okay range. COVID's coming to punish me if I eat too many cookies. And I like cookies quite a bit. So that's
all right. Thank you for having me. This was I'll plan to read President Squid to your audience on election night.
Nice. We're gonna, if you could bring green eggs and ham to just anything to
look at my room. I have literally, like, I don't know if you can see it, but those are all children's books in that next to those are my rat cages. That's where my rat mansions are.
God.
Okay, and that whole thing next to it is all children's books because I'm a children's book author as well.
Oh, I love all of it.
A dozen science children's books.
Nice. All right. It has been delightful. I don't want to keep you any longer. And guys, I will see you next. As usual, I implore you, if you haven't already, sign up for my Patreon, or if you want to do anything to help me keep the Pets fed and vaccinated, you can go to my Patreon or PayPal for a one-time donation, whatever. Help keep a science communicator off the streets. Do what you can. Just $1 a month to my Patreon will not only get you access to my patron only stream, which is happening on Saturday. So you get not only my live stream that I'm doing for everyone on Saturday, but you get my stream just for you guys, and that comes from a special angle where you get to see all of my sins. Tara, there's one last thing that we do here every week, and I don't know if you see
a screen lick. Apparently,
would you like to join for the screen lick? So we have a theory that maybe COVID can spread via computer, and so we try every week.
The actual screen, or just close to it?
Just up to your computer, to your camera, and give a quick screen lick, just so that it'll be wetter than Ben Shapiro's wife's pussy. Anyway, on 3, 1, 2, 3, and we go. It's tradition here now. And they get, my people get very sad.
Family values.
My people get very sad now if it looks like we're getting to the end of this episode and they're like, "You're not saying Skridlik. What's happening? You're not, why isn't it here?" Anyways, so I love you guys. Thank you for coming. If you haven't joined up for Patreon, $1 a month will keep a science communicator off the streets and buying bacon occasionally. Anyways, I love you guys. I will see you on Tuesday. It's going to be a week of extravaganza of trying to keep you distracted from the lunacy and trying to beg you to vote. Anyways, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.